My Guru mixed freely with men and women disciples, treating all as his children. Perceiving their soul equality, he made no distinction and showed no partiality. In sleep you do not know whether you are a man or a woman, he said. Just as a man impersonating a woman does not become one, so the soul impersonating both man and woman remains taintless. The soul is the immutable, unqualified image of God. Sri Yukteswar never avoided or blamed women as the cause of man's downfall. He pointed out that women too have to face temptation from the opposite sex. I once asked Master why a great ancient saint had called women the door to hell. The girl must have proved very troublesome to his peace of mind in his early life, my Guru answered caustically. Otherwise he would have denounced not woman, but some imperfection in his own self-control. If a visitor dared to relate a suggestive story in the hermitage, Master would maintain an unresponsive silence. Do not allow yourself to be thrashed by the provoking whip of a beautiful face, he told the disciples. How can sense slaves enjoy the world? Its subtle flavors escape them while they grovel in primal mud. All nice discriminations are lost to the man of elemental lusts. Students seeking to escape from the Maya-induced sex delusion received from Sri Yukteswar patient and understanding counsel. Just as hunger, not greed, has a legitimate purpose, so the sexual instinct has been implanted by nature solely for the propagation of the species, not for the kindling of insatiable longings, he said. Destroy wrong desires now, otherwise they will remain with you after the astral body has been separated from its physical casing. Even when the flesh is weak, the mind should be constantly resistant. If temptation assails you with cruel force, overcome it by impersonal analysis and indomitable will. Every natural passion can be mastered. Conserve your powers. Be like the capacious ocean, absorbing quietly all the tributary rivers of the senses. Daily renewed sense yearning sap your inner peace. They are like openings in a reservoir that permit vital waters to be wasted in the desert soil of materialism. Forceful, activating impulse of wrong desire is the greatest enemy to the happiness of man. Roam in the world as a lion of self-control. Don't let the frogs of sense weakness kick you around. A true devotee is finally freed from all instinctive compulsions. He transforms his need for human affection into aspiration for God alone, a love solitary because omnipresent. Sri Yukteswar's mother lived in the Rana Mahal district of Banaras, where I had first visited my Guru. Gracious and kindly, she was yet a woman of very decided opinions. I stood on her balcony one day and watched mother and son talking together. In his quiet, sensible way, Master was trying to convince her about something. He was apparently unsuccessful, for she shook her head vigorously. Nay, nay, my son, go away now. Your wise words are not for me. I am not your disciple. Sri Yukteswar backed away without further argument. Like a scolded child, I was touched at his great respect for his mother, even in her unreasonable moods. She saw him only as her little boy, not as a sage. There was a charm about the trifling incident. It supplied a sidelight on my Guru's unusual nature, inwardly humble and outwardly unbendable. The monastic regulations do not permit a Swami to retain connection with worldly ties after their formal severance. He may not perform the ceremonial family rites that are obligatory on the householder. Yet Shankara, reorganizer of the ancient Swami order, disregarded the injunctions. After the death of his beloved mother, he cremated her body with heavenly fire that he caused to spurt from his upraised hand. Sri Yukteswar also ignored the restrictions in a fashion less spectacular. When his mother passed on, he arranged for crematory services by the holy Ganges in Banaras and fed many Brahmins in conformance with householder customs. The Shastric prohibitions were intended to help Swamis to overcome narrow identifications. Shankara and Sri Yukteswar had wholly merged their beings in the impersonal spirit. They needed no rescue by rule. Sometimes, too, a master purposely ignores a canon in order to uphold its principle as superior to and independent of form. Thus Jesus plucked ears of corn on the day of rest. To the inevitable critics he said, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. With the exception of the scriptures, Sri Yukteswar read little, yet he was invariably acquainted with the latest scientific discoveries and other advancements of knowledge. A brilliant conversationalist, he enjoyed an exchange of views on countless topics with his guests. My Guru's ready wit and rollicking laugh enlivened every discussion. Often grave, Master was never gloomy. To seek the Lord, men need not disfigure their faces. He would say, quoting from the Bible, "Remember that finding God will mean the funeral of all sorrows." Among the philosophers, professors, lawyers, and scientists that came to the hermitage, a number arrived for their first visit with the thought of meeting an orthodox religionist. Occasionally, a supercilious smile or a glance of amused tolerance would betray that the newcomers expected nothing more than a few pious platitudes. After talking with Sri Yukteswar and discovering that he possessed precise insight into their specialized fields of knowledge, the visitors would depart reluctantly. My Guru ordinarily was gentle and affable to guests. His welcome was given with charming cordiality, yet inveterate egotists sometimes suffered an invigorating shock. They confronted in Master either frigid indifference or formidable opposition, ice or iron. A noted chemist once crossed swords with Sri Yukteswar. The visitor would not admit the existence of God, inasmuch as science has devised no means of detecting him. "So you have inexplicably failed to isolate the supreme power in your test tubes?" Master's gaze was stern. "I recommend a new experiment. Examine your thoughts unremittingly for 24 hours, then wonder no longer at God's absence." A celebrated scholar received a similar jolt. It came during his first visit to the ashram. The rafters resounded as the guest recited passages from the Mahabharata, Upanishads, and Bhashyas of Shankara. "I am waiting to hear you." Sri Yukteswar's tone was inquiring, as though silence had reigned. The Pandit was puzzled. "Quotations there have been in superabundance." Master's words convulsed me with mirth as I squatted in my corner at a respectful distance from the visitor. "But what original commentary can you supply from the uniqueness of your particular life? What holy text have you absorbed and made your own? In what ways have these timeless truths renovated your nature? Are you content to be a hollow Victrola, mechanically repeating the words of other men?" I gave up. The scholar's chagrin was comical. "I have no inner realization." For the first time, perhaps, he understood that discerning placement of the comma does not atone for a spiritual coma. "These bloodless pedants smell unduly of the lamp," my Guru remarked after the departure of the chastened one. "They consider philosophy to be a gentle intellectual setting up of exercise. Their elevated thoughts are carefully unrelated either to the crudity of outward action or to any scourging inner discipline." Master stressed on other occasions the futility of mere book learning. "Do not confuse understanding with a large vocabulary," he remarked. "Sacred writings are beneficial in stimulating desire for inward realization, if one stanza at a time is slowly assimilated. Otherwise, continual intellectual study may result in vanity, false satisfaction, and undigested knowledge." Sri Yukteswar related one of his own experiences in scriptural edification. The scene was a forest hermitage in eastern Bengal, where he observed the procedure of a renowned teacher, Dabru Balav. His method, at once simple and difficult, was common in ancient India. Dabru Balav had gathered his disciples around him in the sylvan solitudes. The holy Bhagavad Gita was open before them. Steadfastly, they looked at one passage for half an hour, then closed their eyes. Another half hour slipped away. The master gave a brief comment. Motionless, they meditated again for an hour. Finally, the Guru spoke. "Do you now understand the stanza?" "Yes, sir." One in the group ventured this assertion. "No, not fully. Seek the spiritual vitality that has given these words the power to rejuvenate India century after century." Another hour passed in silence. The master dismissed the students and turned to Sri Yukteswar. "Do you know the Bhagavad Gita?" "No, sir, not really, though my eyes and mind have run through its pages many times." Hundreds have replied to me differently. The great sage smiled at Master in blessing. If one busies himself with an outer display of scriptural wealth, what time is left for silent inward diving after the priceless pearls? Sri Yukteswar directed the study of his own disciples by the same intensive method of one-pointedness. "Wisdom is not assimilated with the eyes, but with the atoms," he said. "When your conviction of a truth is not merely in your brain, but in your being, you may diffidently vouch for its meaning."